Well, good morning and welcome to the Adult Education and Workforce Development Statewide webinar for August 12th, 2020. I am Jerry Hafner, and joining me this morning is Maryland and the State Adult Education team. Our last webinar was in June, and we have lots of information to share with you today. But for a moment, just for a moment, take a second to think about the first few days back in June and your thoughts about where we were then and where we are now. At the time, there were robust plans to send kids and adult learners back to school. Now, some school districts have reversed course completely and instead will continue online learning this fall. The Indianapolis 500 was to run with stands at half capacity later this month. All that's changed. There will be no fans in the stands on Saturday, August 23rd, a historic first for the Indianapolis 500. In Indiana, as we all know, face masks are now required dress when social distancing isn't possible. Our world, as we all know, has changed greatly. And how many times have you heard someone say, I wish we could just go back to the way that we were. Next slide. In darkness, there's always light. And as we start this morning, I am reminded of a quote that I saw about teachers that I would like to share. This pandemic has already revealed that schools are so much more than just schools. Many people now realize how tough it is to be a teacher. Teachers are irreplaceable and essential to learning and education. Next slide. And listen to the appreciation from a Central 9 adult education student that I received recently from Michelle Davis, the director there. I have great news I want to share with you, the student wrote. I took my test the other week and I checked my scores today and I passed. Matt was really an awesome teacher. Not only did he give me the materials I needed, but he cared enough to observe personal struggles within myself. He shared his wisdom and life lessons, his quotes that stuck with me the rest of the way. I am so happy. I am in tears. This meant so much to me and to my son. So many doors have opened up in front of me, and I couldn't be more grateful. Thank you. Thank you for your program. What a wonderful note and email from a very gracious student who's very appreciative of what you do every day for our students across our great state. Next slide. Want to go to a study that has been done by Pro-Literacy that I would like to share with you this morning. And the report is entitled COVID-19 Rapid Response Report from the Field. This was published last month, and you can view the full report. The website is on your screen. And the report compiled interviews and surveys from state staff and adult education providers just like yourself, including administrators and teachers across the country. And here are some of the key findings from that report. Because of COVID-19, programs shifted rapidly to offering distance education, generally with little preparation time. Many programs had no prior experience with distance education, and approaches are evolving as staffs and adult education programs gain knowledge, skills, and access to digital tools. Programs are implementing distance education using a combination of digital tools, social media, and text-based materials. Next slide. As many of you have said and the report indicated, opportunities to use digital learning are hampered in some cases by lack of access to hardware and broadband among learners and even teachers. The capacity to use technology is also hampered by inadequate digital literacy skills among learners and even some teachers. The report recommended a solution. The report said the state should support the development of a teacher leader in every program who has been trained to provide online learning assistance to instructional staff. I think that's a very good recommendation, and it sounds a lot like our PDF program. Next slide. The report also said that student engagement was another key finding. The report quoted an administrator of adult education who said, teachers have to continually motivate and encourage students, and this virtual learning environment doesn't provide as much of that as they get face-to-face. Some of our more fragile students are dropping off, unfortunately. This distance learning context has enabled some teachers to rethink their practices in creative and engaging ways, yet still we know that some staff have concerns about the effectiveness of these new practices. And what we have been learning, individual attention, as the report showed, is so important for supporting learner engagement. Next slide, Bryn. We talked about demands not only on adult education programs and staff, but also the toll that COVID-19 is taking on our students. Learners are under increased stress, and this report said program staff are taking great measures to meet the needs of learners that even go beyond education. And in previous webinars, our friends from Brown County pointed this out. Program staff members are called upon as information sources in realms well beyond education to care for learners' needs. Plus, program staff are using a range of new technologies as they strive to stay connected to students. And that's one reason, if we had had a crystal ball early on, but how important our academic and career coaches will become in this current program year and as we start this current program year. Next slide, Bryn. And the report acknowledged that, as we all know, the workload for you has increased significantly for you as directors, for your teachers, as they work to support remote options. And teachers and other program staff, as we said, are taking care of our learners in new and in more intensive ways. And some teachers are thriving by having all the new demands and using all the new technology. But we also know that we have some staff who are still a little bit resistant. And as the report said, many of us and many of you feel exhausted and stressed as a result of what COVID-19 has done to Indiana and to our country. Next slide. Really, I thought this was some great advice, very simple advice from the report. Recognize not every learning situation is going to work for everyone. Do not get wrapped around the wheel in trying to create a perfect solution for everyone. It just doesn't simply exist. It does not exist. Next slide. A little bit more wisdom from the report. Being able to adapt. It is the survival skill of the day. And we talk about it all the time with our learners, but we have now started to think about it for all of us. And despite all the challenges, program staffs, not only across the country in adult education programs, but here in Indiana, can begin to see some of the benefits emerging from the shift to distance education. Many believe that even when they open their physical spaces again, a blend of face-to-face and distance learning, a hybrid model, if you will be the will be advantageous for many of our learners. Very good advice there. Next slide. Well, back in Indiana, and as the new year began on July 1st, frankly, we don't know exactly where we're going to land, but we know that distance education is going to continue. And one of our program wrote in an email to us, actually in a report to us, this was the year to focus on distance learning, and it paid off. We had 22% of our students participate in distance learning last year, and this year, and they were referring to program year 2019 that ended on June 30th. So far, we have had 59.6% of our students complete distance learning. Most of our students were engaging in distance learning before the stay-at-home order and could easily move online with their teachers. And that's really, really good news. Next slide. The program also said one thing that we've learned from the shutdown is that we can and should be using technology more to stay in contact with particularly our teachers in rural areas and to deliver content to them who are not geographically close. And that not only applies to our teachers, but obviously to our students. And by the way, I'd just like to point out the picture on your left there. Congratulations goes to Mr. Donald Denny, who earned an HSC through the South Bend Adult Education Program. He's a longtime employee of the RV industry, and Mr. Denny gave up poker on Thursday nights to attend class. It was something that he wanted to do for years, and he said, when people started missing me at poker, I started getting questions. I kept coming up with excuses. Now, he's encouraging others to get their HSC. It just feels good, he said. Congratulations to Mr. Denny and the South Bend program, a very proud graduate. Next slide. As you can see through the report and some of the quotes that I've shared with you, we're not alone and you're not alone. Other states, other programs across the country are facing similar challenges and opportunities. I would encourage you to stay engaged, keep your students engaged, reach out, ask for help. Remember, your colleagues, your friends in adult education here in Indiana are wonderful resources. Call them. They will be happy to help. Don't be afraid to try something new. It's okay to fail. No problem there. The worst thing that you can do is not try. Keep it simple, low tech, maybe just the secret weapon that might just work well. Low tech may work just fine for your program and for your students. But most of all, keep always this in mind in everything that you do. Do what's best for your students, for your staff, and for your community. And have faith, regardless of where we will land, everything will work out. Everything will work out fine because you are not alone. Next slide. Well, let's switch gears and get into some meat and some potatoes of what we want to present this morning. And as I said earlier, we have a lot of information and a lot of data that I want to share with you that I think paints a very, very positive picture of what you have done in the past and what you will continue to do in the future. I know that everyone was very disappointed that we could not have an IAACE conference this year in French Lick. Maryland and I had planned to share national performance results during a concurrent session. Obviously, that didn't happen. Our friends at USDOE, some background information here, introduced a new website, and unfortunately at this point, you can only view information as a country and other states. You can only view information for the state that you represent and for the data that you put in. You cannot see other states and other performance of our friends across the country. It wasn't until this spring, that we received the national results for program year 2018. And I would like to share some of those highlights. Even though the information is a little bit old, I want to share some of those highlights with you this morning. And there's a lot of good news here. Indiana continues to be, you continue to be a national leader with respect to high school equivalencies, measurable skill gains, and retention. Next slide, Bren. Now hold on. I'm going to throw a lot of information and a lot of data, and Matt will promise you that we will post this webinar as soon as he possibly can on our website so that you have this information. But I'm going to kind of outline what we did in 2018 and our performance as it relates to other states across our country. But please remember this one point. Data is extremely important to tell our story. But behind every data point is a student who is celebrating success or who wants success in adult education and down the road, whether that be further education, a promotion, or a better job. In program year 2018, Indiana was number 3 behind California and Florida in the number of high school diplomas and equivalencies. Nationally, there were 84,042 credentials issued, and Indiana had 6% of that total. Indiana that year, program year 2018, issued just under 5,000 diplomas. This number does not include walk-ins. Indiana was also, I'm pleased to, and which we had shared earlier with you, was also number 3 in program year 2017. So great job. Indiana, number 3 in the number of high school equivalencies and diplomas for program year 2018. Next slide. Let's look at some other data and some other information. Indiana was number 13 in state enrollments, again, in program year 2018. Obviously, there are large states ahead of us that we will likely never beat in an enrollment, including California, Florida, Texas, New York, and Illinois. Indiana's enrollment in program year 2018 was 24,740. Next slide, Bren. Indiana was also number 13 in the tally of instructional hours, and the average national instructional hour was 116 hours. But Indiana was much, much lower when you look at the average. We were at 79 average instructional hours. And as you can see, it looks like number 13 is following Indiana here, and I just hope this is not bad karma. Let's go to the next slide and see how we fare, Bren. Number 7, turning to separation. Indiana was number 7 nationally in, of course, program year 2018. Obviously, the lower the percentage, the better. And I have to give a lot of credit to our friends in New York. New York does a tremendous job given the number of students that adult education serves in that state. They enroll more than 70,000 learners a year. The average national separation rate was 30%. As you can see, we were couple percentage points lower than that. Montana, Hawaii, Idaho, Colorado, and surprisingly, Kentucky had the highest separation rate. So we did very well with separation rates. So let's go to the next slide. And this is the slide that I really want you to take note of, and which we are extremely proud of, and we congratulate all of our programs across Indiana, because Indiana was #1 for measurable skill gains for program year 2018. #1. Indiana was followed by Delaware, Kansas, West Virginia, and I mentioned New York again, New York. Indiana was #1 in MSGs on NRS Table 4, both columns I and K. Column K includes measurable skill gains with periods of participation. So we were clearly #1 in measurable skill gains in program year 2018. Congratulations. And Brent, if you go to the next slide, I'm always kind of interested who is holding up the tail of the list. And here's the tail of the list. The bottom states for measurable skill gains for program year 2018 were Idaho, Maine, and Colorado. New Hampshire and Florida were below 30%. I know with Maryland, Maryland's home state is Florida. My adopted home state is Florida, so 25%. Maybe some work that needs to be done there with measurable skill gains. So again, Indiana, and all of our programs, our teachers, our staffs, congratulations. #1 for program year 2018 in measurable skill gains. Next slide. All righty, let's switch program years and talk about the previous program year that we just ended, program year 2019-2020. Program year, as I said, 2019 ended just a few weeks ago on June 30th. And because of COVID-19, the number of students participating in distance education continued, as you all know, to rise. More than 9,100 students participated in some form of distance education. And as of yesterday, our state's enrollment, if you look at the right-hand side of your screen and the column beginning with our state enrollment for program year 2019, 21,457 students. HSEs were just under 4,000 at 3,921. And measurable skill gains fell from 67% in program year 2018 to currently 62.66% for the year ending June 30th. Measurable skill gains, as you see under the 42% there for distance education students, was 65.61%. And our separation rate for program year 2019 is 29.80%, just under 30%. And we as a state, we have to report our data to the U.S. Department of Education, obviously each year, and that data is submitted no later than October 1st. So we had a very good year. We had an excellent year, even with COVID-19. And as I've said so many times when we have done Zoom meetings with regions, I know that many states would clamor to have nearly 63% measurable skill gains and the number of high school equivalencies that we had, and as our separation rate. Many states would clamor to have those kind of results, even in a normal year. So you have done a tremendous job, and our staff and our students, thank you for doing that. Brent, next slide. Now let's turn to HSE diplomas. I gave you information that included students who studied with an adult education program. I also wanted to include you information for those students who studied in an adult education program, but also weave into the number walk-ins. So when including walk-ins, students, as I said, who did not study in an adult education program, the number of HSE diplomas for 2019 for Indiana is well over 4,300, 4,339 students. The percentage of examinees who passed all 5 subtests was just over 80%, 80.13%. And on the right is the percentage of test takers who passed all 5 tests in program years 2017 and 2018. And if Brent, if you go to the next slide, if you look at the last 3 years, the pass rate has increased by nearly 3 percentage points in those 3 years, 2.91%. And I believe, and I think our professional development team will say this as well, I believe that our targeted instruction and our excellent PDF program have contributed to this increase in success on the HSC. It is well deserved given that anyone who walks off the street without participating in an adult education program, and when you include those numbers in the 4,339 students, and you have nearly a 3% increase in the pass rate in 3 years, is truly very, very good and amazing. Just to give you some idea, we have about 450 walk-ins in that number of 4,339. Brent, next slide. Want to delve a little bit deeper into the data here. On the right is the percentage of test takers passing each subtest. Not surprising, if you look closely at the percentages, math continues to be and has always been the subject with the lowest passing score, and it's at 81.18%. But reading, writing, science, and social studies all are at about 90% or higher. So again, great job. Thank you. Next slide. Want to spend just a moment and talk about the HSE test fees remittance program. Adult education programs will receive reimbursement for student test fees, maximum fee of $95 for those who take the HSE through December 30th, 2020. This program, as many of you know, is provided through the CARES Act, and we're calling it, as you see on your screen, the HSE Test Fees Remittance Program. Contracts were sent to local adult education programs based on an earlier survey that we sent out. A couple of very simple requirements to qualify. Students must, number one, currently be enrolled 12 hours or more in an adult education program, and two, have successful scores on the task readiness practice exam. We do not, by design, we do not require a specific score on the task readiness practice exam. You decide what that score is. We do request that students take all 5 tests of the practice test. Please retain a copy of the student scores. And a question that we got earlier in the week, how do we invoice? Well, Donna will be sending you very shortly an invoice so that you can begin receiving reimbursements. We had to make sure that all the contracts were sent and fully executed before we could begin the reimbursement process. So Donna is and will be sending you a reimbursement form, and you may submit for reimbursement any student who has taken the test July 1, 2020 and after. Just please remember the program is scheduled to end December 30th, 2020, not December 31st, December 30th.
Sherry, this is Marilyn, just for a second. I just wanted to add something on this. As you get your contracts and as you submit for reimbursement on those contracts, if you run out of money on that contract or get close and think you are going to run out of money on that contract, please reach out to us and let us know. There is the potential opportunity to add more money to those contracts if we go through the original allocation that we were given. So as you test students, keep us posted on your needs.
Amen. Thank you, Marilyn. Next slide, Bryn. We've put this slide up each time for the last couple webinars, but I want to continue to remind everyone that we continue to approve more addendum test sites to help meet the needs because of COVID-19. And please contact Melinda. She will be happy to walk you through. Melinda has not officially retired yet, but her date is coming up, but she is still your contact. Please reach out to her to get additional addendum sites set up in your communities. Let's go to the next slide, Bryn. And Nancy is here this morning, and she's going to talk a little bit about a study that I think you maybe should be aware of. It provides some more data. It's from the Annie E. Casey Foundation. So Nancy, good morning and take it away.
Thank you, Jerry. The 31st edition of the Annie E. Casey Foundation's Kids Count data book describes how children across the United States were faring before the coronavirus pandemic began. Data over the years revealed encouraging trends in child well-being nationally, with improvements documented in 11 out of the 16 indicators. Despite documented gains for children of all races and income levels, the national racial inequities provided stubbornly persistent during the reporting period, according to the data. Black children were more likely to live in single-parent families and high-poverty neighborhoods. American Indian children were almost 3 times more likely than the average child to lack health care insurance and live in resource-limited neighborhoods. And Latino children ran the greatest risk of not attending school when they were young and living with a head of household who lacked a high school diploma. You are encouraged to view the indicators in this report. Some highlights: Indiana ranked 31st in the nation under the category of family and community in 2018. Under family and community, there were these categories: children in single-parent families, children in families where the household lacks a high school diploma, children living in high school poverty areas, and teen births. Next slide, Bryn. Under the children and families where the household lacks a high school diploma, the 2018 rate in Indiana was 11% of the children. In 2017, it was 12%, and the national average was 13%. Next slide, please. Under economic well-being, Indiana ranked 15th. Of teens aged 16 to 19, neither in school nor working. The 2018 rate was 6% compared to 7% in 2017, and the national average for 2018 was 7%. Next slide. Under education, Indiana ranked 15th of high school students not graduating on time. And the 2018 rate was 12%, which was a significant decrease compared to 16% in 2017. The national average was 15%. And next slide. Working to keep kids healthy and safe has never been more essential, said Lisa Hamilton, President and CEO of the Casey Foundation. Having consistent, reliable data to guide our decisions will be critical as we continue to ensure the well-being of children, families, and communities throughout this challenging time and beyond. And back to you, Jerry.
Thank you so much, Nancy. Again, in our last webinar, we went over these slides, but I feel it's very important to reemphasize particularly the incentive funding and the funding for program year 2020. Incentive funding. These metrics were covered, as I said, in June and are posted on our website. There will be a mid-year incentive for outcomes achieved for mid-year for the current program year that we're in, program year 2020. Grantees or subrecipients will receive a mid-year performance incentive for achieving 52% on NRS Table 4, Column I by December 31st, 2020. 52% on NRS Table 4, Column I by December 31st. Next slide. Subrecipients will also receive a mid-year performance incentive for 17% of adult education enrollments attaining an HSC on NRS Table 4, this time Column E by December 31st, 2020. And as a reminder, the grant application that we all did last winter, last spring, indicated that after the initial award, subsequent funding, and we're talking about the next program year, would be based solely on performance for this program year. And here are the performance metrics for program year 2020. As I said, the program year began just a few weeks ago on July 1st. Dollars will be awarded in program year 2021 solely on these metrics: enrollment, measurable skill gain or obtained an HSC diploma, and certification. So you receive a point for each of those metrics. Next slide, Bryn. And there's more. Programs will also receive dollars for IETs, both completion and certification. Completion and certification. So please go to our website. We have those charts there for you that you can download and share with your staff. So let's go to the next slide. Rob Moore to the rescue. We all know that adult education and everything that we do is about partnerships, about reaching out. And our good friend Lauren Bell, who is our Director of Adult Education at Vincennes University Adult Education, wrote and shared with me recently, and Jennifer, an endearing piece about one of our colleagues that I would like to share with you this morning. And that colleague is pictured there. He is Rob Moore. Her writing goes like this. On a Thursday last month, I got a sudden request from a U.S. military sergeant to accommodate an 18-year-old desperate to pass his HSC by the following Tuesday in order to become an active service member. Rob committed to spending his own Friday night ensuring this young man's dream would come to pass. The sergeant drove the young man to Bloomington, where Rob met and tested him late into the night in order to complete all 5 subjects in one setting. And we know that was a long night. Next slide. Lauren continued. The test results came back on that Tuesday, and he passed. Now this young man is able to serve our country, and he is off in basic training as we speak. This would not have been possible without Rob's willingness to go above and beyond for someone he didn't even know. What Rob did is more than just caring about people. Rob's actions are the ultimate service, an unselfish sacrifice, putting others' needs before your own. If there were more people like Rob around, this world would be a much brighter place. That's Rob to the rescue. You doing what you do every day. Rob doing what he needed to do to ensure that someone that he didn't know could serve our country. So thank you, Rob. Thank you, Lauren, for making this young man's dream come true. Next slide, Bryn. And speaking of Rob and Vincennes University, Rob is with us this morning, along with Hannah Price of Vincennes University. And they asked for some time this morning to talk more about the Indiana Online Only Distance Education Program. So welcome, Rob, to the rescue, and welcome, Hannah.
Well, thank you for that nice description of what happened that Friday night. I was very happy to do so. And Vincennes University has always been a great adult education program partner with us in our area here in Southern Indiana. Vincennes University has been the great pilot project also for our state on distance learning, also doing it on a statewide basis. And this year we both got, both programs, us and Monroe County and Vincennes University, got an allocation for the Indiana Online Only initiative. And Vincennes University has done a great job doing that, for, particularly for folks who are studying for the highest equivalency statewide. And Monroe County, we proposed not taking from Vincennes University, but also just adding to the initiative and providing that for English language learning. Both of us will depend on partnerships with our local programs around the state to make that happen, to serve folks who simply just physically cannot get to our programs for one reason or other. And there's a lot of reasons why they can't get to our programs this year. The usual childcare, the usual transportation, family responsibilities, work-related, but now maybe even COVID could be a reason why they can't come physically to our programs. So, Hannah?
We're really excited about this partnership because it's just going to be able to expand what Indiana Online is already to offer, or is already able to offer to our students. So the big thing is delivery of the adult education program throughout distance education statewide. And I know we all got a little glimpse of distance education during the COVID shutdown. So kind of some of you guys are doing your own thing, but IOO is still here to help, and we have some new offerings to reach a new demographic of students now. So Vincennes University will continue to take the adult basic education side of IOO, and then Rob with the Monroe County Community School Corporation at Broadview, they are now going to be offering English language learning for our ELL students that we have, so we can refer them to him and be able to serve that demographic of students as well. And like Rob mentioned before, the partnership with local adult education programs, that still stands, that has not changed. And then both of the local programs, both the referring program and VU or Monroe County, will get the enrollment and the outcomes for that student once they get gains or completions or certifications. Next slide.
I can just tell you as a partner from the ground floor with Vincennes University, when they first initiated the Indiana Online program for high school equivalencies, that it's been an extremely valuable experience for us, and would certainly highly recommend other programs participating now with us, either on the adult basic ed side and or the English language learning side. Here's what I found. Basically for us, the curriculum, of course, was already created. There was not like additional work for us to create a special online curriculum instruction pathway for these students. Is already created. Both of us have a history of high outcomes, and we can certainly share those with you so that the students are benefiting, but also performance-wise, as Hannah said, both VU and MCCSE and the local program will get credit for those enrollments and those outcomes. And we certainly found that to be helpful in our program. With people, we probably just be a loss on performance for us was able to be a gain because of the IOO program. For us also, our experience was it really just is like getting a free teacher. Basically, we provided the student and the IOO provided the work and the teacher. So in our program, it was a teacher I didn't have to employ because they were employed under Vincent University and the IOO program. Our state, of course, is encouraging distance education for the reasons that we mentioned, and because we find that those students who do have distance learning hours have a higher rate of success and lower separation. So that would be good for performance and for the students. In the IOO program on kind of both sides of the house here, we are going to be moving to providing IET, IELCE, and WEI options that we'll kind of go into some detail here in just a little bit. We also have, as part of the allocation, the money to pay for seats in the online software we'll be using either for high school equivalency or English language learning. And we can also cover the post-test costs if you need that particular resource added also. Next slide. Just a note on how English language learning, coming on board, how we kind of have this structured. We know that the English language learners really value the practice in speaking with English speakers and listening, as well as the reading and writing. So we will have offered for you some leveled classes for students to participate through video conference with our teacher. And I'll tell you, speaking of performance, we've hired a dynamite English language training teacher. She's taught with us on some temporary contracts before in her first couple years, and 70, 80, sometimes close to 90% completions on table 4. Amazing. So we will have some morning class times with them, some afternoons and some evenings, as you'll see there. And I think Hannah's going to kind of make that available. When you refer a student, they can select a class time to participate. What we're asking for the English language learners is to have, let's see, 4 hours of class time with us a week face-to-face through video conference, and the rest of the time, 8 hours of time on some software that they can practice outside of class. Also, the last 2 rows there, you'll see we're going to offer some IELCE, IET options. Business English, well, they'll learn some of the business vocabulary that's learned in English and study for a certification in that, and also Microsoft Office. And we've kind of targeted those for some certain levels of English ability so that we can make sure that we are serving the people with the English skills to do those, and those others, we want to work them up to that. So those 2 have been very successful IELCE classes for us that we'd like to share with you. Next slide.
All right, so how would the partner or the partner and the student get the 12 hours from the IOO student to become an enrolled student counting towards your enrollment? So since COVID happened, we were able to really accelerate what we are able to offer completely online. So we still do our orientation. We've always offered that online, but now we are also able to offer the pre-testing completely online for the students as well. So in a case like this, if a student is really struggling to get into the classroom, and the only way to get them signed up is to do the pre-testing online, we can do that and cover the testing seat for that. We can still, of course, still do the students where they test in your classroom and then are referred on to us with a pre-test already existing. But we can do it online as well. Same thing with post-testing. We can do the student online or refer them back to the local provider. It really just depends on what the local provider wants and how it works out for the student. Another way is the workforce preparation. We have our students go through Indiana Career Connect as part of the orientation, and they also build a resume in there, and then we review that with them. And we give them any pointers or tips that they need to add to the resume, so that back and forth that we have there counts as time towards the 12 hours for the students. We also offer direct instruction by the IOO teachers. If a student is struggling in a particular skill or not passing a lesson or just needs some more one-on-one time, we schedule one-on-one time with the student, whether it's on the phone, via video, or however they want to reach out to us, and that counts. And post-testing, as I mentioned, The tutoring kind of follows into that one-on-one instruction time that we have with the instructors, and then our follow-ups and check-ins. And now this is not on the list, but we just purchased today online readiness exams so that students qualify for that free testing. So we can now also offer and cover the cost of an online readiness exam for our students. So lots of ways to get that 12 hours. We should have no problem at all getting that from our students. So next slide. All right.
Hannah, this is a good one you worked on. So.
All right. So how would a program join IOO? So we have about 26 programs that we're partnered with right now throughout the whole state. And if you are not one of those programs and would like to be, you can click on this link or type it into your web browser and go to iooadulted.com. And then there is a tab that says partners. If you click on that, there's a partnership agreement form. You just fill that out, and then you're on our email list and you're a partner provider. It's super easy. It's just us gathering your information so we know how to connect with you. Next slide. So once you become a provider, how do you refer a student? Once you are a partner provider with us, again, you just go to that same website, you click on the provider tab, and there's a student referral form. There are 2 forms on there, one for adult education and one for ELL. So you can refer your student through the ELL form or through the ADU form, and it'll go to either Rob or I, and we will reach out to your student and get them going. Next slide.
Okay, and I think one more mention I could mention on the English language learning side of that. I mentioned that we will offer some WEI options with local programs, and basically we proposed on the ELL side to serve 80 students statewide. We also proposed that we would procure a software vendor to provide that online learning outside of class time, and through the procurement process we settled on Burlington. And but we also made a condition of in the request for quote that the company will help us get 4 companies in Indiana on board with us for WEI with English language learning. So there's again another opportunity for our local programs, our students, our employers, and all of us to benefit with that. And Burlington is extremely excited about helping us in that venture of helping us get some companies on board with our local programs that you'll get credit for, and with our state that we'll all get credit for doing the WEI. So any questions, but please put them in the chat for us in the questions, and Matt will read those questions for us. I sent out the IOO link on the chat, so you'll have that in the chat.
Well, thank you very much, Hannah and Rob. Really appreciate your presentation. Want to just switch gears very quickly, and as Rob indicated earlier, if you have any questions, we'll try to take those at the end, and Hannah and Rob will stay on with us until the very end to answer any questions that you may have. Let's take just a couple minutes and talk about something a little bit different. Broadview Learning Center has a very interesting program with Next Level Jobs that might make an interesting IET, and the program is Information Security Analyst. Rob, you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, information security, of course, is one of the 5 flame jobs. It's one of the 5 target sector areas for Indiana. And of course, that includes things like computer support and networking and security. So this is a kind of a new venture for us, and that our local Work One folks, our Region for Workforce Board, asked us to do with the CARES Act money for Next Level Jobs, Information Security Analyst. And believe it or not, in very technology-rich Bloomington, I've never been able to find an instructor for stuff like this. So I know people do this work all over town, but I've never been able to find an instructor. So as I was kind of researching information security analysis at the behest of our workforce board, I stumbled across with CompTIA, who we already partner with for a computer support specialist, but I stumbled upon the fact that CompTIA has a solution to finding local instructors for some of these certification programs, and that is they are providing live instructor training for these certification programs: computer support, information analyst, and networking. So I contacted them, and they said, yes, this is what they do. They'll learn these skills that you see listed there about threats and vulnerabilities, identity and management of access, tools for technology, risk management, how to design systems and architecture for security, cryptography, and I'm not sure what PKI is, but sounds important, so I'll always list it there. People who are in the know about that. Next slide. And so again, they will provide the instructor-led training. What the format is this: they do 10 days, Monday through Friday of one week, Monday through Friday of another week. They're 3 hours a day, and they're usually in the evening. And the price on that is $24.99, which is kind of in range I saw an in training for technology type of trainings. You get the live instructor training during those hours. You get, it purchases an exam voucher and a retake. You also get an online learning software and online lab software for them, and also a practice test. So it's basically the things you'd probably usually buy for an in-person class, but CompTIA will provide also then the instructor from a distance through video conferencing. Next slide. Let's go back a slide, actually. Thought there was another slide to that. Okay, so I put the link down there below that you can click on for the information. Basically, the student will pick the 2-week cohort he wants to join. So there's actually starting dates and ending dates, and they go, a couple of those a month. You select the one, and you pay for it. They get the access, and they join the class. This would be, I think, a really good IET idea. We're using it for the Workforce Ready grant, but again, it could also work into an IET. I'm going to send out also on the chat there link to our website. Just look under certifications there, and you'll see how we are marketing that and advertising and recruiting students for this particular training program. And again, we'll answer any questions for you in the chat at the end of the program. Thanks, Jerry, for the opportunity.
Thank you, Rob, to the rescue. Let's turn to some statistics here very quickly that we have shared with you in the past on past webinars, and I want to share with you again and sort of give you some updates, if you will. The effects of COVID-19. We know the effects nationally, globally, and here in Indiana. There were more than 76,000 confirmed cases and more than 3,000 deaths here in Indiana since Monday. There are over 5 million COVID cases nationally. Nearly 20 million reported cases have been reported globally. We all know the effects of COVID-19, and it's not hard to find a colleague or a friend who knows or has someone who's been impacted by COVID-19. And the next slide, Bryn, we've shared with you in the past, the numbers continue to go up, but the unemployment rate nationally for July was 10.2%. Indiana was slightly higher. The peak unemployment in Indiana was March 28th. And there's some good news here. UI filings are trending down in Indiana. Last week, there were more than 12,500 initial claims here in Indiana. And since March 21st, there's a 20-week period that we're looking at from March 21st. Nearly 950,000 initial claims for unemployment were filed in Indiana. And Michael Hicks, the director of Ball State Center for Business and Economic Research, he wrote, the high notes were that nearly 1.8 million jobs returned nationally over the last month, as those on temporary layoff returned to work. However, he said, permanent job losses continue to increase, but temporary losses appear to be nearly fully recovered. He also said, this means that roughly 10% of those working in January still remain unemployed, with no evidence of improving prospects for reemployment. And that means a lot. Many of these individuals are probably our students, and the care that you have to give and helping them get back on their feet, and that we've talked about earlier. It's more than just adult education. Let's go to the next slide, Bryn. Want to look again where we are now and where we were a year ago. Because of COVID-19, and as you can see on your screen, our enrollment for this program year that began July 1st is significantly down for this program year as compared to the same time a year ago. That's nearly a 65% plunge. As a state, we had more than 3,000 students enrolled a year ago than now. And as one could expect, our HSEs, our measurable skill gains, are down as well. Just some recommendations to make sure that we're capturing everything that we need to be capturing. Make sure your data is current, that you are entering information under the new program year. And as discussed in June, you may provisionally place students in an entry level without a pretest. And there were provisions, if you will, on how to do that. You can go back to the webinar that we did in June and listen to that, or contact your AEC for help. Remember that direct contact hours can be a combination of in-person interaction and telephone, video conferencing, or online communication, whereby the student and program staff can interact and where the learner's identity is verifiable. You can vouch that this is the learner on the other end. And please retain documentation in your files and in enters of these hours that you spend with your students. And with us this morning, let's turn to fiscal. And we have Donna and the Queen of England behind her. Good morning, Donna.
Good morning, everyone. I tell you, well, there's nothing like following a pandemic update to put things into perspective. Nothing can be that bad after hearing some of those numbers. As you see on the screen, we are talking about that magical time of year. Closeout packets are due. We need those to be turned in to the web, to the email link that's on there, grantcloseout@dwd.in.gov, by this Friday. If for some reason you are not going to be able to get that turned in on time, if there's some last minute payment that's not been able to be made, let us know right away so that we can discuss this with the DWD Finance Office and see about getting an extension if it is necessary. When you turn your closeout packets in to the finance team, be sure to copy us on that email. And if you are sending in a final reimbursement with it, make sure we know that too. And once your closeout has been submitted, that cuts off the supply to your financing from last year. So be sure that all of your payments have been reimbursed for before you send that closeout in. Next slide, please. Okay. And update here on contracts. This is an unusual thing for the ABE contract time to have a separate contract going on at the same time with the CARES funding. That one went out the door first because I don't know why. And so that was the one that all of our programs should have received that. All of our providers should have received that contract by now. It will have gone to your designated signatory for your program. If they have not received any communication from the DWD contracts team as of this point, contact me today so that I can follow up on that and see if there are still some issues. I do know that some of you have been in talks with the contracts people about clearance issues that need to be cleared, taken care of. So you want to make sure that you are responding quickly to any requests they have for you to take care of that. Let's see, what else do we have here with the CARES? As we stated about the ABE, let's go back to that. That had been delayed somewhat because we did give an extension on turning in your ABE grant application. So everything has a knock-on effect that put it down the line a little bit. And now it being behind the CARES contract process, that gave a little bit more time to it too. But they have started looking at them. I have been seeing some correspondence regarding the ABE contracts. So be patient, it will come, and we will try to get those through as quickly as possible. So any questions or any problems, let us know. And now back to our host, Jerry.
Thanks, Donna, and thank you to the Queen. The professional development team has collected from their reports a list of reflections from adult education programs across the state. And these reflections come from our PDFs. And here's Dan to present some of those reflections and a top 10 list. Dan?
Good afternoon. We will start with number 1, a hybrid model. From this point forward, I think we should always be prepared for the possibility of full-time distance education and make sure that all our classes and instructors operate in a hybrid format using a platform such as Google Classroom, even under normal circumstances. Next slide. Number 2, we have tool chests. Using the DWD online resource guide, many staff members began to experiment with conducting virtual instruction. Teachers also reviewed online materials. However, many students in our area only have mobile devices or live in rural regions where connectivity to the internet is unreliable. Some teachers found workbooks that students could use and mailed or dropped off assignment packets when necessary. Next slide. Number 3, student engagement. Consistent communication with students was a high priority to check on not only their academic progress, but also their overall well-being, health, physical and mental, and employment status. Many phone calls, texts, postcards, virtual calls, and emails were used to contact students individually and frequently. Next slide. Number 4, targeted PD activities. And this is something we've talked about and we'll never let go of, especially in this day and age where students are going to be more likely to leave sooner rather than later. We need to really target our activities. Here we have our PD plan relied heavily on training teachers to track and respond to class data to drive instruction and increase measurable skill gains. Additionally, having planned professional development on the first day of each term was very helpful in allowing teachers to truly embrace the professional development implemented. And I think this kind of shows in the last slide or so that Jerry showed that where we are less than last year, we are not that much lower in our MSGs this year as compared to last year. So we see evidence of this happening. Next slide. Number 5, video lessons. IDOC has several teachers at different facilities that are developing virtual video lessons to place on closed network education platform. These lessons are aligned to the CCR standards and are available to students at any time. The virtual classroom will continue to be developed throughout the next school year. Many students have already expressed the importance of having something such as this as part of the resources available to them outside of the classroom. Next slide. Number 6, online proctoring. For online proctoring, we were able to train proctors and use our website for students, teachers to make test appointments. We were able to repurpose some of our older laptops to provide students access to a computer so that testing could be conducted. And if you go on our website, you will see that 2 adult education programs, RVR, Region 910, and South Bend have both shared with us the step-by-step process that they use for proctoring. One using, I believe, Google Meets or Google Hangouts with RVR, and the other with South Bend doing Zoom. All right, next slide. Number 7, telephone registration. Online testing was approved for TABE Class C. We have been able to accept new ESL students online by conducting registration interviews by phone and online testing via Zoom. One thing we have learned from the shutdown is that we can and should be using technology more to stay in contact with teachers in rural areas and deliver content to teachers that are not close geographically. We expect to utilize Zoom in the future for meetings and trainings. Next slide. Number 8, community resources. We have collaborated with our local park and recreation center, and we now have access to their community room to do orientation, testing, and task testing. Next slide. Reflection number 9, homegrown trainings. The online PD offerings by the PDFs during this time have been invaluable. Please continue offering these sessions. We would like to see more training videos on Amplify AE that are produced by local staff, especially some for ESL. Thank you very much for that suggestion. And reflection number 10, leadership from within. My only suggestion would be for state directors to continue to send the message to program coordinators about what we are doing and the rationale and importance behind it so that we continue the awesome progress we have already made. I absolutely love the encouragement from the state directors to the coordinators to learn, to lean on the PDFs, to lead the PD direction and make decisions for the classroom and practices. It has given us the freedom to drive PD according to the needs of our teachers, and that has been truly powerful. And that's it. Back to Jerry.
Thank you, Dan. And now let's turn to Bryn for some updates for IETs, Integrated Education and Training. Good morning, Bryn.
Good morning, Jerry. Thank you. I appreciate that. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Hope everyone's doing well today. Just a quick reminder about the IETs and submissions of the WEIs as well. When you're submitting these, you have an application. Inside the application is a spreadsheet for that application only. So if you're submitting IETs or WEIs, make sure that on that spreadsheet, you only have that class for the application. Please, whatever you do, do not send to your AECs one spreadsheet with all of your class listed and then all of your applications. Each application should have their own spreadsheet with their own classes in them. And that's all I have, Jerry. Thanks.
Thanks, Bryn. Matt is up next for Enters updates, and I know Matt has had a very difficult week. Matt?
Good morning, all. Yes, I have a ruptured eardrum, so sorry, I have not been around. The first thing I am going to do is, Bryn, I'm going to change presenter to share my screen because we're going to talk about the training videos. I got a message today when I was talking. Let me see if I can see if it's sharing the correct screen. Can you guys see the website?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So the first thing I got was from Rob to the Rescue, had no idea that I had produced training videos. Like, he had no clue that
I find that hard to believe.
I know, Jerry. I was in shock. Rob to the Rescue, the most famous director of them all. So we sent out an email. I have been producing training videos here in my basement. And if you look, I'm at the Amplify AE website, which all of you should know where that is. I'm going to go to the program management, and then I'm going to go to accountability and Enters. And right here, Enters training videos, we have, and I will be adding to this, a set of introduction, preferences, everything that you need to know about Enters, all the way up to currently how to put attendance in per the student into Enters to do your day-to-day job. All of these videos have gotten some really good reviews. I've gotten a lot of positive feedback. We will be producing more as soon as I feel better. I will get onto the next modules of testing, all of the errors and all of that stuff. But this is where you find them. We have also updated our resources for you guys. We put the new learner registration form on for you all that's also located elsewhere on our page. But this is where those are located. So that's the fun news from Matt. Here is the bad news from Matt. Today is August 12th. Your data was supposed to be clean and done on August 10th. I was informed not to call out names of programs, so I am doing it in general. There are 13 students still in the system who have the designation of no parent signature. If you are a program that has a student that has that error, you are in violation of the law. Last year, we sent out letters. We were trying to avoid sending out letters again. You must have a parent signature on file. If you have that information, please mark the box on the student record. If you do not have that information, again, you are in violation of the law. We don't want to have to send out the letters that say you're breaking the law, but you are. All of these errors should have been cleaned up 2 days ago. This was run this morning. Obviously, Jerry put up the numbers he had from the 11th. As of today, we're actually up. We have more HSEs and our percentage is better. So please be aware when we talk about data collection and how to get your errors clean, you must do that stuff. It's not just because it makes the numbers look better. It's because legally you are obligated to do so when you entered within a contract with the state of Indiana. Other than that, Jerry, I don't have anything else unless you have any questions. We will cover all of the questions at the end. And Bryn, you should be able to share your screen again. Yay!
There we go.
Look, I know how to do my job.
Well, thank you both, Bryn and Matt. And I'm sorry, Matt, that you're not feeling well today. But I am sure that the one review that you have not received is from Rob to the rescue. I'm sure he will view those videos and give you 5 stars very soon. So let's move on to IAACE. We have Jen with us, our executive director of IAACE. So Jen, take it away.
Thanks, Jerry. Hello, everyone. IAACE has a hefty goal, but we need you in order to be able to succeed. We would love to have a member of on the communications committee from every single region in the state of Indiana. And the only way we can do it is if you nominate someone that will assist. You might ask, what do they have to commit to? And it's very simple. We'll meet once a month via Zoom, and you just have to share and care about adult education in the state. This is simply about making sure that you're in the know and that we put information that is worthy about you in the newsletters and blogs and all of our other communication. Next up, IAACE conference. Yes, we are in the planning stage to continue the conference as planned in Michigan City in April of 2021. The conference committee meetings are starting this Friday. You and anyone else is welcome to join us. They will be via Zoom. They will start at 12:15 Eastern Standard Time. We ask that you simply join it. We are taking ideas on all kinds of stuff at this current time. So please join us on the conference committee. Now, you might remember last year we were going to do a birthday party, or I guess I should say this year. And we are looking at doing the birthday party again next year. But we realized that we don't have your birthdays. And so we're asking that you sign in to the membership work system on the IAACE website and enter your birthday. Just has to be the month and day. You can leave out the year. And we hope that you can put that information in so we can truly celebrate you throughout the year as well. Next up. Good news, another professional development course. This was a session that was going to take place in the conference. It is Learning Styles for Future Education. It is by Mike Tombleson. It'll be offered Wednesday, August 26th at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 o'clock a.m. Central. You can use that link there, the bit.ly at /IAACEPD to register for the session. Again, it will be via Zoom, and so you can learn from the comfort of your own home or office. Next step. We just want to remind everyone and thank everyone for being a member of IAACE, and we encourage you to take the opportunity and join. If you have not joined, get more people involved in your organization, because we will keep you in the know. We will provide you access to professional development and so much more. So join IAACE today. Back to you, Jerry.
Thank you so much, Jen. I really appreciate your report and all the good information. I know Matt said that we had some questions. We have been going for about an hour and 20 minutes, but we'll try to quickly take some questions, Matt, and get you maybe some quick answers. I know there were some questions particularly that may be related to Donna. So Donna, if you could also join us, and any of our other staff, please join us as well. So Matt, give us the questions.
All right, so the first question came in from Rob, and it goes back to the HSE test remittance fee. Do you need invoices submitted on or before December 30th, or when is the deadline for invoice submission to DWD for the HSE remittance?
Well, we haven't set a cutoff date for turning in the invoice for the test remittance, so we'll know a little bit more about that later on. But it is that time period is to cover the testing, not the reimbursement. So you'll probably have a couple of weeks to finish doing your reimbursing after that.
Okay. Everything else I have as far as questions is for Hannah and Rob.
All right.
So,
very good. Rob and Hannah.
Rob, can you join us, please? Okay, first question. Barb Stith wants to know what online software is used for the ELL students.
The online software is Burlington.
Okay. And the next question she has is VU's orientation all virtual. Would be interested in seeing that if possible, Hannah.
Oh yeah? Yeah, we can work on getting that sent out.
All right. And then Lauren Bell had a question. Rob, do you know the hourly starting rate for information security analyst? We can probably look that up and get that to you, Lauren. I mean, it's going to be in one of the hot 50 jobs, probably, correct?
Yes.
Okay. We'll send that out to you, Lauren. And then is the CompTIA next level jobs accepted?
CompTIA next level, it is approved on, yes, it is approved right now on next level jobs during this rapid recovery phase until December 30th.
Okay. That's Jerry, that's all the questions we had for this month. Right. Yeah.
Wow.
I've got one I can add verbally if you don't mind about your wonderful training videos, Matt. Are they on Netflix or Hulu?
They're on YouTube. So please like and subscribe.
Okay.
Give the thumbs up.
Very good. Well,
thank
you
Rob to the rescue.
Yeah, Rob to the rescue. Thank you very much this morning. I know we went over a little bit on our time, but we had a lot of information, and we did not have, obviously, a webinar in July. So please join us in September. Our webinar will be on September 9th. That's just 2 days after Labor Day for our next statewide webinar. We had about 125 adult educators on the webinar today. We hope that you will be able to join us in September. In the meantime, please stay safe. Keep your students, your staff, and your families safe. So take care, and we'll see you in September.